Joins us tonight. Luis, thanks a lot for coming on.
Hey, thanks, Tucker. I appreciate the opportunity to have an honest conversation on this, particularly as we're also remembering President George H.W. Bush, who taught us that we can disagree on some of these issues, but do it respectfully. So I really appreciate the chance to do this.
Well, I do too.
Yeah, I went to the Capitol yesterday just after leaving the studio here to see him. Took my kids, and that was one of the things we talked about, is that there's going to be different perspectives on these issues, but we can talk about them respectfully.
Right.
And I think what you've laid out here brings up some very legitimate issues. The question is,
that's what I like about what's happening in Tijuana, and I feel deeply for the people of Tijuana because I think they're going through what a lot of Americans have gone through. But because it is Tijuana and it is Mexico, we can't dismiss them as anti-Hispanic. And so we have to look more clearly at what their concerns are. And so my question to you is a very simple one. Looking at the concerns that we just played on tape, and those are real, does it make you a little more empathetic toward our fellow Americans who have similar feelings?
I think we have to be empathetic all around here, which includes people who have legitimate concerns, but a lot of those concerns are being stoked without a basis of reality. And so here's the problem, that a lot of these immigrants that are part of this caravan are decent people who are fleeing either violence or economic situations that are untenable. But they're victims all around because they're being victimized by human traffickers and smugglers that want to take advantage of them.
I agree with that.
And so there's actually an AP analysis that just came out that 4,000 of these people have disappeared in the last few years on the way.
Yes.
In other words, their families have no idea what happened to them. They either got murdered or worse just along the way. And so there's a legitimate humanitarian crisis of people who were being taken advantage of and victimized on that end.
I totally agree, but I just want to shine the light on the victims who don't really get representation of any kind in the press, and those are the citizens who are having to absorb large populations of, and I agree with you, largely decent people. I think most migrants want what I want, which is a better better life for their families. I get it.
That's exactly right.
I don't think most of them are criminals.
I've
always thought that. But hold on. But I think it's important to empathize as deeply with the citizens whose lives are being upended by the arrival of these immigrants as it is with the immigrants themselves. So when you see this, can you say that, you know, American citizens say, I don't want any more immigration. We've had more than we can handle. They're not just racists, are they? I mean, they have a point. Do they not?
I don't think they're racist. I think it's important that they also understand the other side of this, which is that immigrants have actually made our economy a lot stronger through the years. You touched on it a little bit at the beginning. Let me add some color to that, which includes that our population is aging. We have baby boomers retiring, and a lot of the people that we are able to replace in the economy are because of immigration. Now, we want to do that ideally in a legal and orderly fashion, but the reality is that we have a huge advantage over Europe.
Hold on. I need to ask this question. You say our population is aging. We're not reproducing ourselves. Why do you think that is? Nobody seems to pause and ask, why can't young Americans afford to get married and have children, afford to buy homes and cars? And their solution, the elite solution, is we'll just bring in new people. But what about the Americans, the young people? I'm a 30-year-old American. I can't afford to have kids. Does anybody care about that person? I mean, maybe there's a real problem here that we should... Well, really? Because I never hear that person addressed ever. No one ever says that. It's like, oh, we need immigration.
It's an industrialized country issue more than it has to do with... But I'm an American. But hold on. I'm an American, okay? So my concern is for my fellow Americans, and they can't afford to have children, but rather than fix their problems or even think about them, we're like, we'll just import new children. Does that seem like a sort of ass-backward way to approach this? We should be able to do both. Look, over the last 10 years, American companies and stocks have outperformed the rest of the world by a lot. American companies and the economy have been so strong over the last 10 years compared to anything else in the world. And part of the reason for that is because we have an economy that is constantly renewing itself. And so we absolutely should be able to have an economy where people who want to have children can do so. But it doesn't mean that we don't have the space to absorb it.
No, but hold on. But that's not what you're saying. Hold on. You just said we need to bring in people because Americans aren't reproducing in sufficient numbers. And my question is, why aren't our leaders thinking about how our people can afford to have children? They don't even consider that a subject worth studying, much less trying to fix. It's just like, oh, well, they're not having enough kids.
But
why doesn't anyone care enough?
Those are mutually exclusive things.
You're saying that our low birth rates are the justification for immigration. I'm saying our low birth rates are a tragedy that say something awful about our economy and the selfish stupidity of our leaders.
It's a combination of our growth and our prosperity that enables us to have a stronger economy. So there's there's definitely a both sides to this where you can look at, well, who are going to be hurt. But when you've looked at states like Georgia and others that have implemented anti-immigrant measures that forced a lot of these immigrants out, what you saw was, food rotting on the vines, a lot of lost crops because there weren't enough people there to work them. And so the reality is that we can both do something about strengthening the economy for people who are suffering and who are American and who have lived here their whole lives. They want to have children. They want to have an opportunity to do better than their parents
Maybe
did.
someone should care about them a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the most important thing. Nothing is even close to as important as that. But that doesn't mean that we have to demonize the immigrants who are legitimate victims of this I'm not
process.
demonizing anybody. I'm not against the immigrants. I'm just for Americans, and nobody cares about them. It's like, shut up, you're dying, we're going to replace you. And it's deeply offensive. Anyway, we're out of time. I hope you will come back, because I enjoyed that conversation. Thank you.
Likewise,
Luis.
Tucker. Thank you.
Republicans floating a new plan to pay for a border wall. Democrats still holding the line at current spending levels, raising the chance now of a government shutdown. Let's go to our headliner today. We are pleased to have back with us House Majority Whip Steve Scalise. And, sir, good morning to you, and thank you for coming back here.
Morning, Bill and Sandra. Great to be with you.
So what we understand, $5 billion, give or take, maybe not over a year's time, but over 2 years. Is that something that could pass?
What President Trump has talked about is that he needs $5 billion right now to secure the border. And it's a full border security package, including building the wall, including technology, making sure that our Border Patrol agents have the tools they need. You just saw in the last few days, they're being attacked and assaulted by some of the people in this caravan. And the president needs to secure the border. I think it's important for all Americans that we get this done.
Senator Chuck Schumer making his thoughts on this very clear on the Senate floor yesterday. Listen.
He hasn't even spent the $1.3 billion Congress allocated last year in the fiscal year 2018 budget for border security, fences, drones, technology. This isn't actually about border security. This is the president trying to manufacture a shutdown to fire up his base.
Can you respond to that for us, Congressman?
Well, Chuck Schumer's still burned from the last time he shut the government down, and it didn't work for him then. It's not going to work for him now because people know. They see this threat at the border. Look at this caravan. There are already more than 600 known convicted criminals in the caravan. They just arrested another MS-13 gang member 2 days ago as part of this caravan, and President Trump has said, I need the money to fully secure the border. Sure, the first $1.5 billion is out there being spent. That's only a small portion of what it takes to secure the entire American border. So if Chuck Schumer wants to take the position that he's willing to shut the government down because he doesn't want to secure America's border, people see what's happening right now. They know what's at stake, and he'll lose that shutdown like he lost the last shutdown. Hopefully it doesn't happen. We don't want a shutdown. We want to make sure we can secure America's border. President Trump's laid out a very concrete plan that makes a lot of sense to get this done. Let's go and see a bipartisan agreement to secure America's border, especially at a time when we see the assault coming from known criminals. And keep this in mind. Every single day, on average, our Department of Homeland Security stops 10 known terrorists from entering this country. Every single day. We need to secure the border. President Trump has laid out a plan to do it. If Chuck Schumer doesn't want that to happen, if he wants to shut the government down over whether or not to secure the border,
on the potential
that's
of
a
that,
failed
Congressman,
position.
do you think there will be a government shutdown?
You know, the negotiations are ongoing. We still have a few more days to get this done. I hope we do get it done. But at the end of the day, we need to secure America's border, and we're going to keep battling until we finally get the agreement to make that happen.
Two more topics to get to quickly. James Comey's fighting back, and apparently some of your Republican lawmakers, they want to get James Comey in before them one more time. And you're running up against the calendar here because you're going to toss the gavel over the first week of January. James Comey said this in a tweet. He said, today my legal team filed court papers to get transparency from House Republicans. Let the American people watch. Bob Goodlatte, chairman of the committee, was with us last hour and said the following as to whether or not the Comey testimony will happen. Watch.
We're open to the idea of videotaping it. The fact of the matter is, though, he is trying to run the clock on us.
Trying to run the clock, sir?
I agree with Chairman Goodlatte. Look, we've laid out a number of different options for Comey to come in. You don't get to decide whether or not you want to comply with a compelling order to come and testify before Congress. Ironically, in his tweet, he mentions transparency. The whole idea of getting him to come and testify is to be transparent with the American people, not through leaks, which Comey's good at, but by being sworn in under oath and testifying and telling the truth to the American people about what's going on. Is this a witch hunt? Is this targeted? What's really happening? The only way to get true transparency is not through him trying to leak stuff and write books. It's about swearing him in under oath and getting an honest conversation about getting the facts to the American people.
Congressman Scalise, finally, the president is at this G20 summit at the moment. We don't know yet what all will come out of this. We know he's got a meeting with President Xi, but we do not know if this meeting with Vladimir Putin will be happening. The latest from the White House, the president has called this off. Would you like to see the president meet with Putin?
Well, regardless of whether he meets with him or not, clearly there is a lot of diplomacy going on because what Russia is trying to do with our friends in the Ukraine is wrong, and we're standing up against it. I'm glad that President Trump is standing up to Russia and standing with our friends in the Ukraine. We didn't see that from the previous administration. I'm glad we're seeing it now, and let's bring more of the weight of other countries in the world against what Russia's aggression is doing. It has to stop. Let's back the Ukrainians, and I think the president's going to do that whether he meets in person or whether Secretary Pompeo and others are going to make this more effective at the UN and bring more countries to bear.
Nice to see you, sir. Thank you for your time. Steve Scalise.
Great being back with you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Congressman.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.